I was standing at my kitchen sink washing dishes when I heard it through the open window. My name, spoken by my daughter-in-law Celeste, sitting on my back porch with her sister. Lorraine never helped us. Not once. When we were struggling with the mortgage, when Derek lost his job, when we needed childcare, she had all this money and she just watched us suffer. 38 years. That's how long it had been since I'd heard my name spoken with that particular mixture of contempt and entitlement. Since the funeral. Since they'd read the will and discovered I'd inherited everything, not them. Since they'd stopped speaking to me entirely. 38 years of silence. No calls, no visits, no acknowledgement that I existed. And now my name was coming up again. I stood very still, my hands in the warm, soapy water, and I listened. Celeste's sister responded, "Wait, Derek's mother is still alive. I thought she was. Gone." Might as well be. We haven't spoken to her in decades. But Pamela saw her last week at the grocery store. Still driving. Still living in that big house all alone. Must be what, 80 now? 82, I whispered to myself. And she never helped you. Never gave you money. Never. She inherited everything from her husband's family, the house, investments, everything. We got nothing. And when we needed help, she said no. Said we needed to handle our own problems. Can you believe that? Your own son's struggling and you refuse to help. My hands had stopped moving. The dish I'd been washing hung suspended in the water. So why are you talking about her now? There was a pause. Then Celeste said something that made my chest go cold. Because Pamela said Lorraine looks frail, really frail, and Derek has been thinking, we're her only family, her only son. When she dies, everything comes to us. But what if she's changed her will? What if she's leaving it all to some charity or something? We need to reconnect. Soon, before it's too late. They thought I was broken, old, dying, easy. That was their first mistake. I carefully set down the dish, dried my hands, and walked to my study. I opened the drawer where I'd kept everything for 38 years. Letters I'd written and never sent. Financial records showing exactly how much I'd refused to help them. Documentation of every interaction we'd had before the silence began. I spread it all on my desk, and I looked at it with new eyes. Because after 38 years of silence, my name had come up again. And this time, I was going to make sure they remembered exactly who Lorraine Pemberton was. Now listen, before I tell you what happened next, before I show you what 38 years of silence can teach a woman about patience and planning, I need you to do something for me. If you're watching this and you've ever been erased from someone's life until they needed something from you, hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment telling me where you're from, because what I'm about to tell you, about what happens when people mistake your silence for weakness, you need to hear every word. Turn on notifications. This story goes places you won't expect. The silence had started at my husband's funeral. Howard Pemberton died at 63, heart attack, sudden, devastating. Derek was 25 then, newly married to Celeste, working his first real job. I was 44, a widow, alone in the house Howard and I had built our life in. After the funeral, after everyone had left, Derek and Celeste stayed behind. We sat in the living room, the same living room where I was currently standing, and Derek asked about the will. "Mom, Dad's attorney said we need to schedule a reading. Do you know what's in it?" He left everything to me. The house, the investments, his pension, standard spousal inheritance. Celeste's face had changed. Everything, but Derek is his son. Shouldn't there be something specifically for him? Howard trusted that I'd take care of Derek if he needed it, but he wanted to make sure I was secure first. "How much are we talking about?" Celeste asked directly. "That's between me and the estate attorney. Derek has a right to know what his father left. Derek has a right to know that his mother is financially stable and won't be a burden. Beyond that, it's not his concern." The temperature in the room had dropped 20 degrees. Over the next few weeks, it became clear what they'd expected. They'd expected Howard to leave Derek something substantial. Money, investments, something they could use for their down payment on a house, for Celeste's student loans, for their future. When they discovered I'd inherited everything, and had no intention of immediately distributing portions to Derek. They'd been furious. "We're struggling, Mom. We need help." "You're 25 with 2 incomes and no children. You're not struggling, you're starting out. That's different. But you have all this money now. Dad's life insurance, his investments, you don't need all of it. You could help us." "I could, but I'm not going to." "Why not?" "Because your father worked 40 years to build that security for his widow, not for his adult son who has his own career and his own life. Derek, I love you, but this money is mine. When I die, you'll inherit. Until then, you build your own life." Celeste had stood up, her face red. "This is unbelievable. You're going to sit in this big house with all this money and watch us struggle to afford rent? What kind of mother are you?" "The kind who believes you're capable of building your own success. Howard and I did it. You can too." They'd left that day, and I hadn't heard from them since. No calls on my birthday, no visits on holidays, no acknowledgement of Mother's Day, nothing. For 38 years. I'd written letters, tried to call, sent cards for birthdays and Christmas, all returned unopened or ignored. Eventually, I'd stopped trying. I'd lived my life. I'd traveled. I'd volunteered. I'd invested carefully and lived comfortably on what Howard had left me. I'd built a life where my son's absence was a permanent ache, but not a destroying wound. I'd learned to live in the silence. But now the silence was breaking, and I needed to understand why. I sat at my kitchen table with a notepad, and I wrote down everything I'd overheard. "Lorraine looks frail. When she dies, everything comes to us. What if she's changed her will? We need to reconnect before it's too late." They weren't coming back because they'd realized how much time they'd wasted. They weren't coming back because they missed me or regretted the estrangement. They were coming back because they thought I was dying and they wanted to secure their inheritance. That was the moment I understood. For 38 years, I'd wondered if Derek ever thought about me, if he regretted the silence, if he'd ever considered reaching out but didn't know how. Now I had my answer. He thought about me when he thought I might be dying with money he wanted to inherit. I didn't cry, I didn't get angry, I didn't make a scene. I did what I'd learned to do over 38 years of silence. I planned. The next morning, I called my attorney. His name was Vincent Torres, and he'd been handling my estate since Howard died. "Vincent, I need to update my will, completely restructure it. Can you come to my house this week?" "Of course, Lorraine. What changes are you considering?" "I'll explain when you get here, but Vincent, I need this done quickly and I need it done correctly. No loopholes, no challenges, ironclad." "That sounds serious." "It is." When Vincent came to my house 3 days later, I showed him everything. The overheard conversation, the 38 years of returned letters and ignored calls, the complete estrangement. "Lorraine, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you and Derek had been estranged this long." Neither did he, apparently, until he thought I was dying. I showed Vincent my current will. Everything went to Derek. The house, the investments, now worth considerably more than when Howard died, my savings, everything. About $2.4 million total. I want to change it, but I want to do it strategically. How? I want to leave Derek exactly what he's entitled to. Nothing. But I want to do it in a way that makes it clear why. Vincent listened as I explained my plan. I would create a new will that left specific small amounts to charities I'd supported over the years. $50,000 to the library, $50,000 to the senior center, $50,000 to the literacy foundation. The house and the remainder of the estate, roughly $2.1 million, would go to a scholarship fund I was creating in Howard's name. For students who'd lost a parent and were working their way through college without family financial support. And for Derek, I would leave $1 single dollar, with a note explaining exactly why. "Lorraine, are you sure? This is your son." A son who hasn't spoken to me in 38 years, who returned my letters unopened, who only remembered I existed when he thought I was dying with money he wanted. "Vincent, I'm very sure. He could contest it. On what grounds? I'm completely competent. I'm making these decisions freely and with clear intent. And Vincent, that's why I need this ironclad. I want medical evaluations, cognitive assessments, video testimony. I want so much documentation of my competence and my intent that Derek can't challenge this even if he tries. When do you want to do this? Immediately, before Derek shows up trying to reconnect. Over the next 2 weeks, Vincent arranged everything. A comprehensive medical evaluation showing I was in excellent health for 82. A cognitive assessment showing sharp memory and clear judgment. A video recording of me explaining my decisions in detail. And a will that left Derek exactly what he deserved. The day after the new will was signed and filed, my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. I answered, "Hello." "Mom, it's Derek." After 38 years of silence, my son's voice on the phone felt like hearing a ghost. I didn't respond immediately. I let the silence stretch. "Mom, are you there?" "I'm here." It's been a long time. 38 years. "Yeah, I know. Mom, I've been thinking lately and I realized how much time has passed. How we let a disagreement become this huge thing. And I wanted to reach out, see how you're doing." I didn't argue. I remembered. I remembered 38 years of returned letters. I remembered birthdays alone. I remembered holidays where my son's absence was a wound that never quite healed. And I remembered 3 days ago, sitting on my back porch, hearing Celeste explain exactly why Derek was calling now. "I'm doing fine, Derek. How are you?" "Good, busy. Celeste and I are doing well. The kids are grown now. Did you know you have grandchildren?" "No, I didn't know. You never told me." "Right, well, we have 2. Brianna's 32, lives in Seattle. Tyler's 29, just got married last year." Grandchildren I'd never met. A whole branch of family that existed without me. "That's nice." "Mom, I was thinking maybe we could get together, have coffee or lunch, catch up. It's been too long." "Why now, Derek?" "What do you mean? Why are you calling after 38 years of silence? What changed?" "I've just been thinking about family, about how short life is, about not wasting more time on old disagreements." He was good. He sounded sincere, almost convinced. If I hadn't heard Celeste on my porch, I might have believed him. "Derek, did someone tell you I looked frail?" There was a pause, just a heartbeat too long. "What? No, why would you ask that?" "Just curious about the timing. 38 years and suddenly you want to reconnect. It seems like something must have prompted it." "I've just been doing some thinking about mortality and family, and—" "I see. Well, Derek, I appreciate you calling, but I'm not sure I'm ready for coffee just yet. 38 years is a long time to process." "Mom, come on, don't be like that. I'm reaching out, I'm trying." After 38 years, during which you returned every letter I sent, ignored every birthday card, pretended I didn't exist, and now you want credit for trying. You refused to help us when we needed it. There it was, the real Derek under the reconciliation performance. I declined to immediately hand over your father's estate to you when you were 25 and fully capable of building your own life. That's different from refusing to help. We were struggling. You were starting out. Everyone struggles when they're starting out. Derek, your father, and I didn't have family money. We built everything ourselves. I believed you could do the same. So you just cut us off. I cut you off. Derek, you stopped speaking to me. You returned my letters. You ignored every attempt I made to maintain contact. Don't rewrite history now because it's convenient. Fine, you want to hold on to the past. Fine. I was trying to be the bigger person, but if you want to stay bitter and alone, that's your choice. He hung up. I sat holding the phone, and I smiled. Because Derek had just confirmed everything. His reconciliation wasn't genuine. His call wasn't about family. It was about money. And now, I knew exactly what was coming next. 3 days later, Celeste called. "Lorraine, it's Celeste. Derek told me he reached out and it didn't go well." He hung up on me when I didn't immediately agree to pretend 38 years didn't happen. He was hurt. Lorraine, he was trying to reconnect, and you threw the past in his face. I stated facts. Derek didn't like hearing them. Well, I wanted to call because regardless of what happened between you and Derek, I think it's important for family to reconnect. Life is short. You're not getting younger. Wouldn't it be nice to know your grandchildren before it's too late? Before I die, she meant. Before I die and they inherit. Celeste, I appreciate you calling, but I'm not interested in a reconciliation based on my supposed imminent death. What? That's not what this is about. Isn't it? 38 years of silence, and suddenly everyone's concerned about family connection, right around the time someone mentioned I looked frail. Who said you looked frail? You did, to your sister on my back porch, while I was in my kitchen. Silence, complete frozen silence. You heard that conversation. Every word, about how I inherited everything, how you got nothing, how you need to reconnect before I change my will, about protecting your inheritance. I heard all of it, Celeste. Lorraine, you're taking that out of context. Am I? Then explain the context where those words mean something other than what they sound like. We were just talking, just exploring possibilities. You were planning how to reconnect with me after 38 years of pretending I was dead, solely because you're worried I might die soon and leave my money somewhere other than to you. That's not family concern. That's financial strategy. You know what? Derek was right about you. You're bitter and vindictive, and you'd rather punish us forever than forgive a disagreement from decades ago. You think this is about a disagreement? Celeste, you and Derek cut me out of your lives completely for 38 years. Not because I was cruel or abusive or harmful. Because I didn't immediately hand over my husband's estate to subsidize your lifestyle. That's not a disagreement. That's a choice you made. And now you're facing the consequences of that choice. What consequences? I should have stopped there, should have stayed quiet, but 38 years of silence had built up pressure. You'll find out when the time comes. I hung up. That night, I sat in my study looking at the new will Vincent had prepared, looking at the scholarship fund that would help students who'd lost parents, looking at the dollar amount left to Derek. $1. After 38 years of silence, my name had come up again. But not the way they'd expected. They thought time was on their side. They thought I'd be so grateful for reconciliation, I'd overlook the 38-year abandonment. They thought I was old and weak and easy to manipulate. They were about to discover they were wrong about all of it. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. 2 weeks after I hung up on Celeste, a car pulled into my driveway on a Saturday morning. I watched from my living room window as Derek got out, alone, carrying flowers. He looked older, gray at the temples, lines around his eyes. 63 now, the same age Howard had been when he died. He walked to my door and rang the bell. I didn't answer immediately. I stood behind the door, watching him through the peephole, and I waited. He rang again, then knocked. Mom, I know you're home. Your car is in the driveway. Please, can we just talk? I counted to 30, then I opened the door. Derek. Mom, I brought these for you. He held out the flowers, grocery store roses, still wrapped in plastic. Why are you here? Because phone calls aren't working. Because I need to talk to you face to face. Mom, can I come in, please? I stepped aside and let him enter. We sat in the living room. He placed the flowers on the coffee table between us like a peace offering neither of us believed in. Mom, I've been thinking a lot since our call, about everything that happened, and I want to apologize. I didn't respond. I just looked at him. I was young and stupid when Dad died. I expected things I had no right to expect, and when you didn't give me what I wanted, I reacted badly, really badly. I cut you off completely, and that was wrong. 38 years. Derek, you cut me off for 38 years. I know, and I'm sorry. But Mom, I'm here now. I'm trying to make it right. Doesn't that count for something? Why now? What? Why are you trying to make it right now? What changed? He shifted in his seat. I told you, I've been thinking about mortality, about family. Derek, I heard Celeste on my porch. I heard her tell her sister that you need to reconnect before I die and leave everything to charity. I know why you're here. His face flushed. You were eavesdropping. In my own house. No, I was existing in my own house while your wife sat on my property discussing my death and your inheritance. Okay, fine. Yes, Celeste and I discussed the fact that we're your only family and when you die we'll inherit. Is that so terrible? Children think about inheritance. That's normal. Children who have relationships with their parents think about inheritance. You don't have a relationship with me. You have 38 years of silence followed by sudden interest when someone said I looked frail. So you're going to punish me forever. You're never going to forgive me. I didn't say that. But Derek, forgiveness isn't the same as pretending 38 years didn't happen. You want to walk in here with grocery store flowers and have everything be fine. That's not how this works. Then how does it work? What do you want from me? I want honesty, real honesty, not performance. Derek, why are you really here? He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, because I'm scared you've changed your will. There it was, the truth underneath everything. And if I have, then I want to understand why. Mom, I'm your son, your only child. Everything Dad built, it should come to me. That's how it works in families. Is it? Because in families, people also speak to each other, visit each other, acknowledge each other's existence. You didn't do any of that for 38 years. So tell me, Derek, why should you inherit anything from a woman you pretended was dead? Because I'm your son. Blood matters. You can't just erase 38 years of being my mother because we had a fight. You erased 38 years of being my son. You returned my letters. You ignored my calls. You built a whole life, marriage, children, grandchildren, without me in it. Derek, you erased me first. So this is revenge. You're going to cut me out of the will to punish me. I didn't answer. I just looked at him steadily. Mom, please, I'm asking you. I'm apologizing. What more do you want? I want you to leave. What? I want you to leave my house. This conversation is over. Mom, we need to resolve this. No, you need to resolve this. I resolved it years ago when I accepted that my son didn't want me in his life. Derek, you showing up here with flowers and apologies doesn't change 38 years of choices. You want forgiveness. Fine, I forgive you. You want a relationship. That takes time and trust, and you've proven I can't trust you. Now leave. I'm not leaving until we talk about the will. That was the moment I saw who Derek really was. Not the apologetic son, the entitled one. The will is none of your business. It absolutely is my business. That's my inheritance. Dad's money should come to me. Your father's money came to me, his widow. What I do with it is my decision. You're really going to leave everything to charity, to strangers, instead of your own son. I'm going to do what I think is right. And Derek, after 38 years of you demonstrating that money matters more to you than family, why would I reward that? He stood up, angry now. You're making a huge mistake. I came here trying to reconcile and you're throwing it back in my face. Fine, but Mom, you need to understand something. I have rights. Legal rights. I can contest any will that cuts me out. I can argue you're not competent to make these decisions. I can fight this. There it was, the threat. I stood up too. Get out of my house. Mom. Get out. He grabbed his grocery store flowers and left, slamming the door behind him. I stood in my living room, shaking slightly, and I called Vincent. He just threatened to contest the will. He said he'd argue I'm not competent. Lorraine, this is why we documented everything. You have medical evaluations, cognitive assessments, video testimony. If he tries to challenge your competence, he'll fail. What should I do? Nothing. Let him make the next move. You've done everything right. The will is solid. Your competence is documented. If Derek wants to fight, he'll lose. That evening, Celeste called. She was furious. What did you say to Derek? He came home from your house completely devastated. I told him the truth. That 38 years of silence has consequences. You're really going to cut him out, your own son. Why does that bother you, Celeste? You haven't spoken to me in 38 years either. Why do you care what I do with my money? Because it's supposed to come to us. We're family. You're people who share my DNA. Family requires more than biology. It requires presence, connection, care. You and Derek had none of that for me. Why should I have it for you now that you need something from me? Because that's what parents do. They support their children no matter what. Even when their children abandon them for nearly 4 decades. Celeste, I supported Derek for 25 years. I raised him. I educated him. I launched him into adulthood. Then he cut me off completely because I didn't immediately hand over my husband's estate. That was his choice. The consequences are his to live with. You're a selfish, bitter old woman. I'm a woman who learned to live without a son who decided money was more important than his mother. Celeste, you and Derek made your priorities clear 38 years ago. Don't be surprised that I listened. She hung up. 3 days later, I received a letter from an attorney named Bradley Simmons. Dear Mrs. Pemberton, I represent Derek Pemberton regarding concerns about your estate planning and mental competency. My client believes you may be making decisions about your will that are not in your best interest and may indicate diminished capacity. We are requesting that you undergo an independent medical evaluation to assess your mental fitness. If you refuse, we may be forced to petition the court for a competency hearing. Please contact my office within 10 days to discuss this matter. Sincerely, Bradley Simmons, Esq. They thought I would panic, thought I would cave to the threat of a competency challenge. I called Vincent. They're actually doing it. They're threatening a competency hearing. Do you want me to respond? Yes, but Vincent, I want to do something else too. What? I want to accelerate the will execution. I want to make sure that if something happens to me before this plays out, my actual wishes are honored, not whatever Derek claims I would have wanted. The will is already legally binding. I know, but I want more. I want to create the scholarship fund now, while I'm alive. I want to transfer the house into the fund's name. I want to make it impossible for Derek to claim I intended to leave him anything. Lorraine, that's a major financial move. I'm 82. I don't need a big house. I don't need millions of dollars. Vincent, I want to see this scholarship fund work while I'm alive. I want to know that Howard's legacy is helping students who need it, not sitting in an estate waiting for a son who only wants it because he didn't earn it himself. You're sure? Completely. Over the next month, Vincent helped me restructure everything. The scholarship fund was established and funded. The house was transferred into the fund's ownership, with a provision that I could live there for the remainder of my life. My liquid assets were distributed, portions to charities, portions to the scholarship fund, enough for me to live comfortably, but not enough to make me a target worth fighting over. When it was done, my estate was worth about $150,000. The rest, $2, $25 million, was already distributed to causes I believed in. Derek's inheritance, when I died, would be $1 and a letter explaining why. Vincent sent a response to Bradley Simmons. Mr. Simmons, your client's concerns about Mrs. Pemberton's competency are baseless and appear motivated by financial interest rather than genuine concern. Mrs. Pemberton has undergone comprehensive medical and cognitive evaluation by independent professionals. Results show excellent mental function with no signs of diminished capacity. Documentation is attached. Furthermore, Mrs. Pemberton has already executed her estate plan. The bulk of her assets have been distributed to charitable causes during her lifetime. Your client's concern about the will is therefore moot. There is no significant estate remaining to contest. If your client wishes to pursue a competency hearing, Mrs. Pemberton will defend vigorously and will seek sanctions for filing a frivolous petition. Mrs. Pemberton declines further contact regarding this matter. Sincerely, Vincent Torres, Esq. 2 weeks later, Derek showed up at my house again. This time, he didn't ring the bell. He pounded on the door. "Mom, open this door, we need to talk." I opened it. "Lower your voice or leave." "You gave it away. You gave everything away." "I distributed my assets to causes I support. Yes. That was my inheritance." "No, it was my money, from my husband, who left it to me to do with as I pleased." "You did this to punish me." "I did this because I wanted to see the money do good while I'm alive." "Derek, Howard worked 40 years. That money is creating scholarships for students who lost parents and are working their way through school without family support. That's a legacy worth having." "What about me? What about your family?" "You're not my family. You're a stranger who happens to be biologically related to me. Derek, you spent 38 years proving you didn't want me in your life. Why are you surprised I eventually listened?" "Because you're my mother. You're supposed to love me unconditionally." "I did love you unconditionally, for 44 years. Through your childhood, your education, your early adulthood. And then you cut me off because I wouldn't immediately fund your lifestyle. Derek, unconditional love doesn't mean unconditional access to money." "So you're leaving me nothing, after everything." "I'm leaving you exactly what you left me. Nothing." His face went red. "You're going to regret this." "Am I, Derek? What exactly are you going to do? Sue me? I've already distributed the assets. Contest the will. There's nothing left to contest. Try to have me declared incompetent. I have documentation proving I'm sharp as ever. Tell me, what's your plan?" He had no answer. He just stood there, furious and helpless. "Derek, I want you to understand something. This isn't revenge. This is consequence. You made a choice 38 years ago to value money over relationship. You're living with the result of that choice. The money is gone. It's helping people who actually need it. And you get to sit with the knowledge that if you'd chosen differently, if you'd valued your mother over your inheritance, things might have ended differently. I hate you. You've hated me for 38 years. This is nothing new." He left, and I closed the door on my son for what I knew would be the last time. But I was wrong, because 3 weeks later, something happened that showed me Derek had one more move to make. And it was worse than anything I'd anticipated. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The call came at 7:30 a.m. on a Tuesday, an unfamiliar number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Mrs. Pemberton, this is Officer Angela Price with the County Sheriff's Department. We received a wellness check request for your address. Are you all right?" "I'm fine. Why would someone request a wellness check?" The caller expressed concern that you might be in danger or experiencing a medical emergency. They said you've been acting confused and erratic lately. May I come by to verify you're safe?" "Of course, but officer, I'm perfectly fine. This is a false report." "I still need to see you in person, ma'am. Department policy. I'll be there in 20 minutes. When Officer Price arrived, she was professional and thorough. She checked the house, asked me questions about my daily routine, observed my lucidity and independence. "Mrs. Pemberton, you seem perfectly healthy and competent. Can you think of anyone who might file a false wellness check?" "My son, Derek Pemberton. We're estranged, and he's been trying to establish that I'm incompetent." "Why would he do that?" "Because I changed my will, and he doesn't like it." Officer Price made notes. "Ma'am, filing false emergency reports is a crime. Would you like to press charges?" "Not yet, but I'd like this documented." "It will be, and Mrs. Pemberton, if he does this again, call me directly." She handed me her card. After she left, I called Vincent. "Derek filed a false wellness check. The officer said it's a crime." "It is. But Lorraine, this tells me Derek is escalating. He's trying to create an official record of concerns about you. If he files enough of these, he might use them to support a competency petition." "What should I do?" "Document everything, and be prepared he's not done." Vincent was right. Over the next 2 weeks, I received 3 more wellness checks. Each time, A different officer showing up because someone had called claiming I was wandering the neighborhood confused, or hadn't picked up my mail in days, or was seen talking to myself in my yard. All false, all designed to create a pattern of concern. Each officer documented that I was fine. Each report noted the calls appeared to be harassment. Then Derek tried something different. I came home from the grocery store one afternoon to find an ambulance in my driveway. 2 paramedics were at my door. "Mrs. Pemberton, we got a 911 call from this address. Caller said an elderly woman had fallen and couldn't get up." I didn't call 911. I've been at the grocery store for the past hour. "Ma'am, the call came from a male voice claiming to be inside this house, saying his mother had fallen." Derek, he'd called 911 pretending to be inside my house, claiming I'd fallen. "That was my son. He doesn't live here. He's harassing me." The paramedics exchanged glances. "Ma'am, calling 911 with false information is a serious crime." "I know, and I want to press charges." After the paramedics left and filed their report, Officer Price called me. "Mrs. Pemberton, your son has now filed 4 false wellness checks and 1 false 911 call. That's a pattern of harassment. We can arrest him." "Do it." Derek was arrested the next day at his work, charged with filing false emergency reports and misuse of 911 services. Celeste called me screaming. "They arrested Derek at his office, in front of his colleagues. He could lose his job. How could you do this?" "I didn't do it. Derek did it when he filed multiple false reports claiming I was in danger. Celeste, he committed crimes. I'm just not protecting him from the consequences." "He was worried about you." "He was trying to create an official record of incompetency to support a legal challenge to my estate decisions. That's not worry. That's fraud." "You're destroying his life." "No, he's destroying his own life by refusing to accept that I have the right to make my own choices about my money." Derek spent one night in jail before Celeste laid him out. His attorney, Bradley Simmons, called Vincent. "My client is willing to drop all estate challenges and cease all contact with Mrs. Pemberton if she agrees not to testify against him in the criminal case." Vincent called me. "They want a deal. Derek leaves you alone, you don't testify against him." "What happens to the criminal charges if I don't testify?" "They'll probably be reduced or dropped. Filing false reports is hard to prosecute without the victim's cooperation." "Tell them no deal. Derek committed crimes. He should face the consequences." "Lorraine, if you do this, Derek will hate you forever. Whatever small chance existed for reconciliation will be gone." "Vincent, there's no chance for reconciliation. There never was. Derek doesn't want a relationship with me. He wants my money. And when he realized he couldn't have it, he tried to use the legal system and emergency services to harass me into submission. That's not a son. That's an extortionist." "You're sure?" "Completely." The criminal case proceeded. Derek pleaded guilty to reduced charges, misuse of emergency services, and was sentenced to 200 hours of community service, a $5,000 fine, and 1 year of probation. More importantly, he was ordered to have no contact with me, a formal restraining order. If he came near me, called me, or contacted me in any way, he'd go to jail. For the first time in months, I felt safe in my own home. But 3 weeks after Derek's sentencing, something happened that showed me the situation still wasn't over. I received a letter, not from Derek or his attorney, from someone named Brianna Hutchins. My granddaughter, Derek's daughter, the one I'd never met. "Dear Grandmother Lorraine, I hope this letter finds you well. I'm writing because I only recently learned about you, really learned about you, I mean. I knew my father had a mother he didn't speak to, but I never knew the full story. After Dad's arrest, things came out. The real reasons for the estrangement, what he'd been trying to do with your will, the harassment, all of it. I'm writing because I'm ashamed. Ashamed that my father would treat you this way. Ashamed that I lived 32 years without knowing my grandmother existed in any real way. I don't expect anything from you. I'm not writing to ask for money or favors or a relationship you're not interested in. I just wanted you to know that not everyone in this family thinks what Dad did was okay. I work as a social worker in Seattle. I help elderly people who are being financially exploited by family members. The irony isn't lost on me that my own father was doing to you exactly what I help protect others from. If you'd ever like to talk, my number is below. But I understand if you don't. Either way, I wanted you to know I exist, and I'm sorry for everything my father put you through. With respect, Brianna. I read the letter 3 times. Then I set it aside and I sat with it for 2 days. On the 3rd day, I called the number she'd provided. Hello. Brianna, this is Lorraine, your grandmother. There was a sharp intake of breath. You called. I didn't think you would. Your letter surprised me, in a good way. I wasn't sure if I should send it, but after everything that happened, I felt like I needed to reach out. Even if you told me to never contact you again, I needed to try. Tell me about your work. You said you're a social worker. We talked for an hour, about her job helping elderly people, about her life in Seattle, about her partner Maya and their plans to adopt, about everything except Derek. Finally, she said quietly, "Can I ask you something?" Of course. Why did Dad cut you off? I know it was about money and inheritance, but I need to understand what actually happened. I told her the whole story, Howard's death, the will, Derek's expectations, the 38 years of silence, the sudden reconnection when he thought I was dying, the harassment, all of it. When I finished, Brianna was crying. I'm so sorry. Grandmother, I'm so sorry. You lost your husband and then your son abandoned you because you didn't immediately give him money. That's unforgivable. Your father made choices. He has to live with them. Is it true you gave everything away? That there's no inheritance left? Most of it, yes. I created a scholarship fund in Howard's name for students who have lost a parent and are working their way through school without family support. The house is owned by the fund. When I die, there'll be very little estate remaining. That's beautiful. That's exactly what the money should do. Grandmother, I want you to know, I don't want your money. I never have. I have a good life. I support myself. I just wish I'd known you all these years. Why didn't you? Your father never told you about me. He said you died when I was little. He told me and Tyler that we never met our grandmother because she'd passed away before we were born. We didn't find out the truth until Tyler Googled you after Dad's arrest and found records showing you were alive. Derek had told his children I was dead. He'd erased me so completely he'd lied about my existence. Brianna, that must have been a shock. It was devastating. My whole life I thought I had no grandmother on Dad's side, and it turns out I did. I just had a father who lied. Grandmother, can I ask you something else? Yes. Would you be willing to meet? I know you have no reason to trust anyone related to Dad, but I'd like to know you, if you're open to it. I thought about it carefully. I'd like that, but Brianna, I need to be clear about something. I'm not looking to replace the 38 years I lost. I can't get those back, but I'd like to know who you are now. That's all I'm asking for, just a chance. We met for lunch the following week. Brianna flew down from Seattle on her day off. We met at a quiet restaurant, and I sat across from a granddaughter I'd never known. She looked like Howard, same eyes, same smile, same gentle manner. We talked for 3 hours. She told me about growing up thinking I was dead, about the confusion when she learned the truth, about confronting Derek and having him shut down completely. He won't admit he did anything wrong. He keeps saying you were vindictive and cruel, that you turned his own daughter against him. I didn't turn you against him. His actions did that. I know. Grandmother, I need you to understand. I'm not here to mediate between you and Dad. I'm not here to convince you to forgive him or reconcile. I'm here because I want to know you for who you are, separate from all that history. I appreciate that, Brianna. Can I ask what you're planning to do with your time now? Dad said you're 82. Are you thinking about moving to a care facility or anything? No, I'm healthy. I live independently. I volunteer with the scholarship fund, helping review applications and meet recipients. I have a good life, Brianna. Not the one I would have chosen. I would have preferred to have my son in my life, but a meaningful one. I'd like to be part of it, if you'll let me. Over the next 3 months, Brianna and I built something I'd never expected to have, a relationship. She called twice a week, visited once a month. She brought Maya to meet me. They were good people, kind, genuine, nothing like Derek. Then one day, Brianna called with news that changed everything. Grandmother, I need to tell you something. Dad had a heart attack. He's in the hospital. My first thought, shamefully, was, how old is he? 63. The same age Howard had been. How bad? Serious. He needed bypass surgery. He's stable now, but grandmother, he's asking for you. What? He wants to see you. He told Mom to call you and ask if you'd come to the hospital. I sat with the phone pressed to my ear, and I felt nothing. No rush of maternal concern. No impulse to race to his bedside. Just nothing. Brianna, I can't. I understand. I told Mom you probably wouldn't, but I promised I'd ask. Is he going to survive? The doctors say yes. He'll need recovery time, lifestyle changes, but he should be okay. Then tell Celeste I'm glad he's recovering, but I'm not coming. She's going to be furious. She's been furious for months. This is nothing new. After I hung up, I sat in my living room and I thought about Derek in a hospital bed, asking for a mother he'd abandoned for 38 years. Part of me felt guilty. What kind of mother doesn't go to her son's hospital bedside? But another part, the part that had survived 38 years of silence, the part that had endured months of harassment and false reports and arrests, that part knew. I didn't owe Derek my presence just because he was scared. He'd had 38 years to value me as a person instead of a source of money. He'd chosen differently. Now he was facing the consequences, and one of those consequences was that when he needed comfort, I wasn't there. Because he'd taught me not to be. 2 days later, Celeste called, not asking, demanding. Lorraine, Derek is in the hospital recovering from a heart attack, and you can't be bothered to visit. What kind of mother are you? The kind whose son abandoned her for 38 years and only reconnected to secure his inheritance. Celeste, I'm glad Derek is recovering, but I'm not coming. He almost died. He's your son. He's a 63-year-old man who made choices. I'm sorry he's been ill, but Celeste, my being there won't change anything. Derek doesn't want a mother. He wants money and absolution. I can't give him either. You're heartless. I'm honest. There's a difference. Celeste, tell Derek I hope he recovers. Tell him to take care of himself. But don't tell him I'm coming, because I'm not. Celeste hung up on me, and I sat with my decision, waiting to feel guilty. I didn't. What I felt was clear. After years of silence, my name had come up again, this time in a hospital room where Derek wanted comfort from the mother he'd discarded. But I'd learned something in 38 years. You can't erase someone for decades and then demand they show up when it's convenient. Derek had taught me that. And now he was learning it himself. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Derek survived the heart attack and the bypass surgery. According to Brianna, who kept me updated despite my refusal to visit, he spent 2 weeks in the hospital, followed by 6 weeks of cardiac rehabilitation. During that entire time, I received multiple calls from Celeste, from Derek's brother-in-law Leonard, from their pastor Reverend Mills, all telling me I needed to visit, needed to forgive, needed to be the bigger person. I declined every request. But he's your son, Reverend Mills said during one particularly persistent call. The Bible teaches forgiveness, Mrs. Pemberton. Doesn't your faith call you to reconcile? Reverend, the Bible also teaches that we reap what we sow. Derek sowed 38 years of abandonment. He's reaping a mother who won't come running when he finally decides he needs her. I've forgiven him for what he did. But forgiveness doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen or accepting a relationship on his terms after all this time. But he almost died. And when my husband died and I needed my son, Derek disappeared for 38 years. I survived that. He'll survive this. 3 months after Derek's heart attack, on a cold January morning, Brianna called with different news. Grandmother, Dad wants to talk to you. Not in person. He knows you won't agree to that. But he asked if you'd be willing to accept a letter from him. I told him I'd ask, but I made it clear you don't owe him anything, including reading his letter. What does he want to say in a letter that he couldn't say in 38 years? I don't know, but grandmother, he's different since the heart attack. Quieter. He's been in therapy. I think facing his mortality did something to him. Brianna, people don't change because they had a health scare. They might change temporarily, but fundamentally, no. I know. I'm not asking you to believe he's changed. I'm just asking if you'd read a letter if he sent one. I thought about it. If he sends a letter, I'll read it, but I'm not promising anything beyond that. The letter arrived 4 days later. Handwritten, 12 pages. I sat in my study with a cup of tea and I read it. Dear Mom, I don't know how to start this letter except to say, I was wrong. About everything. I was wrong 38 years ago when I cut you off because you wouldn't immediately hand over Dad's estate. I was wrong to return your letters unopened. I was wrong to tell my children you were dead. I was wrong to come back into your life only when I thought you were dying with money I wanted. I was wrong to harass you with false wellness checks. I was wrong about all of it. I've been in therapy since the heart attack. The therapist asked me a question I couldn't answer. When did your mother stop being a person and become a resource? I couldn't pinpoint the exact moment, but somewhere along the way, probably right around the time Dad died and I learned about the will, you stopped being my mother and became a problem standing between me and money I felt entitled to. I didn't think of it that way at the time. I told myself you were being selfish, that you should help your struggling son, that Dad would have wanted you to share the inheritance. I built this whole narrative where I was the victim and you were the villain. But the therapist made me look at the actual facts. I was 25. I had a job. I had a wife. I had no children yet, no major expenses. I wasn't struggling. I was just starting out like everyone does. And when you didn't immediately subsidize my life, I punished you for 38 years. 38 years, Mom. I stole 38 years from you, from me, from my kids who could have known their grandmother. And the worst part? I told myself it was justified. I convinced myself that you deserved the silence because you'd refused to help when we needed it. I rewrote history in my head until I was the wronged party. The heart attack changed something. When I woke up in that hospital bed, the first thought I had was, I almost died without ever apologizing to my mother. Not I almost died without securing the inheritance. Not I almost died before making sure the will was in my favor. Just, I almost died and my mother doesn't know I'm sorry. Mom, I am sorry. Deeply, truly sorry. Not because I want your money. I know that's gone, and honestly, I'm glad it's helping students who need it. I'm sorry because I wasted 38 years being angry at you for having boundaries, when I should have spent those years being grateful I had a mother at all. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm not asking for reconciliation. I don't deserve that either. I'm just asking you to know I finally understand what I did, and I'm ashamed. I told Brianna that you were vindictive and cruel for giving away the inheritance. But you weren't vindictive. You were honest. You looked at a son who'd abandoned you for 4 decades, and you made a choice. That money would do more good helping strangers than enabling someone who'd proven he valued money over relationships. You were right about everything. I don't expect a response to this letter. I don't expect anything from you ever again. I just wanted you to know that I finally see clearly what I couldn't see for 38 years. You were never the villain in this story. I was. With deep regret, Derek. I read the letter twice. Then I set it down and I sat with it. It was a good apology. Thorough, honest, taking full responsibility without excuses. But it was also 38 years too late. I didn't respond immediately. I waited 2 weeks, thinking about what I wanted to say, if anything. Finally, I wrote back, 1 page to his 12. Derek, I received your letter. Thank you for the apology. I accept it. But accepting an apology is different from reconciling a relationship. You're right that you stole 38 years. Those years are gone. I can't get them back. And I'm not interested in spending whatever years I have left pretending they didn't happen. You say you understand what you did. Good. Live with that understanding. Let it change how you treat the people still in your life, but don't expect it to change what's between us. We're not mother and son anymore. We're two people who used to have a relationship before you chose to end it. I'm glad you survived the heart attack. I'm glad you're in therapy. I'm glad you finally see clearly. But Derek, I've been seeing clearly for 38 years. I grieved the loss of my son a long time ago. I'm not interested in resurrecting what you killed. Take care of yourself. Lorraine. I mailed the letter and I felt at peace with it. I'd said what I needed to say. No anger, no cruelty, just honesty. 2 weeks after Derek received my response, Brianna called. Grandmother, Dad asked me to tell you something. He said he understands. He's not going to contact you again. He wants you to know he respects your boundaries, and he's sorry it took him so long to learn to respect anything about you. How is he handling it? He's devastated, but he's also... I don't know how to explain it. It's like he's finally accepting consequences instead of fighting them. He's not angry at you. He's just sad about what he lost. That's appropriate. He should be sad. He chose this. I know. Grandmother, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you regret giving away the inheritance? Not because of Dad, because of yourself. Do you wish you'd kept more for your own security? Not for a moment. Brianna, I'm 82. I have enough to live comfortably. The scholarship fund is doing exactly what I wanted. It's helping students who are working their way through school after losing a parent. I've met some of the recipients. Their gratitude, their determination, their success, that's worth more than money in a bank account waiting to be inherited by people who didn't earn it. You're an incredible woman. I wish I'd known you my whole life. We can't change the past, but Brianna, I'm grateful to know you now. Over the next year, Brianna and I continued building our relationship. She visited every 6 weeks. We talked weekly. She and Maya invited me to Seattle for Christmas, and I went, my first Christmas with family in 38 years. It was strange and wonderful, different from what I'd imagined family holidays would be, but good in its own way. During that visit, Brianna's brother Tyler reached out too. He was cautious, apologetic, unsure if I'd want contact with him after everything Derek had done. I understand if you don't want a relationship with me, Tyler said when we met for coffee. I'm still Dad's son. I know that might be too complicated. Tyler, you didn't do anything wrong. You were told I was dead. That's on your father, not on you. Still, I feel like I should apologize for not questioning it, for not trying to find out more about you. You were a child when Derek told you I died. Children believe their parents. Tyler, there's nothing to forgive. Tyler and I built a relationship too. Slower than with Brianna, more careful but genuine. I learned that Tyler worked as a high school teacher, that he'd married a woman named Rebecca, that they were expecting their first child, my first great-grandchild. Would you like to be involved? Tyler asked tentatively. With the baby, I mean, we'd understand if you didn't want to be. I'd like that very much. And so, at 83, I became a great-grandmother. Tyler and Rebecca named their daughter Helen, after my mother. They asked me to be present at the hospital when she was born. I held my great-granddaughter 6 hours after she entered the world. And I felt something I hadn't felt in decades, the particular joy of being part of a family that wanted me there. Not for my money, not for what I could do for them, just for being who I was. It was a gift I'd never expected to receive. During this time, I heard occasional updates about Derek through Brianna. He was still in therapy, still working through his regrets. He'd started volunteering with a program that helped elderly people with home maintenance, doing for strangers what he'd refused to do for me until it benefited him. He's trying to make amends, Brianna said. Not to you, he understands that ship has sailed, but to the universe, I guess, trying to be the person he should have been all along. That's good. People should grow, even if it's late. He asks about you sometimes, through me. He wants to know if you're healthy, if you're happy. I tell him you are, it makes him cry. Brianna, you don't have to tell me that. I know, but I think you should know that he's genuinely destroyed by what he did. He's not crying because he lost the inheritance. He's crying because he lost you, and he knows it's his own fault. He made a choice. Now he lives with it. Do you ever think about forgiving him? Really forgiving him, I mean. Not just saying the words, but actually letting go of it. I thought about that question carefully. I've let go of the anger. I'm not carrying rage around, but forgiving someone doesn't mean giving them access to hurt you again. Derek proved for 38 years that he values money over relationships. Then he proved it again when he came back. That's who he is. I've accepted it. I've moved on. But I'm not opening my life to him. That's not unforgiveness. That's wisdom. Brianna nodded slowly. I understand that. I think that's the right choice, actually. Just because someone apologizes doesn't mean you owe them a relationship. Exactly. 1 year after Derek's heart attack, something unexpected happened. I received a call from Bradley Simmons, Derek's attorney. Mrs. Pemberton, I'm calling because Derek has asked me to convey something to you. He'd like to make a donation to your scholarship fund, a significant one. He wants to contribute $50,000 to honor your late husband's memory. I was silent for a long moment. Where would Derek get $50,000? He and Celeste sold their house. They're downsizing to a smaller place. Derek specifically set aside this amount to donate to the scholarship fund as, I believe he called it partial restitution for stealing 38 years. I don't want his money. Mrs. Pemberton, Derek isn't trying to buy forgiveness. He's trying to do something good with money that came from selling a house you never helped him buy. He wants the money to help students the way your fund is already helping students. He's not asking for contact. He's not asking for recognition. He wants to donate anonymously if you'll accept it. Let me think about it. I called Brianna. Your father wants to donate $50,000 to the scholarship fund. What do you think? I think he's trying to do the right thing for once. The money would help a lot of students, grandmother, and it's not like accepting it means you have to see him or talk to him. You're right, okay. Tell Bradley I'll accept the donation. Anonymously, I don't want Derek's name on anything. The donation came through. $50,000 that funded 10 full scholarships for students who'd lost parents. Students who were working their way through school without family support, just like the scholarship fund was designed to help. It was the first genuinely selfless thing Derek had done in our entire relationship. And he did it knowing he'd get nothing in return, no recognition, no relationship, no forgiveness. Just the knowledge that the money was helping people. Maybe people could change after all. Not enough to undo 38 years of damage, but enough to stop doing more damage and start doing some good. 2 years after Derek's heart attack, on a quiet spring morning, Brianna called with news I'd half expected. Grandmother, Dad died last night. Another heart attack. This one was massive. He didn't survive. I sat down slowly. How old was he? 65, 2 years after the first heart attack. 2 years longer than his father got. Howard died at 63. Derek made it to 65. How are you doing? I asked Brianna. I'm sad. He was my father, and despite everything, I loved him. But I'm also, I don't know, I'm sad about what could have been. About the father he could have been if he'd made different choices. About the relationship you two could have had. Don't mourn what could have been, Brianna. Mourn what was. Derek was your father and you loved him. That's enough. Are you okay? Was I okay? I searched my feelings carefully. I'm sad, not devastated, but sad. Derek was my son. I loved him for 44 years before he cut me off. That love doesn't just disappear, even after 38 years of silence. I'm sad that he died. I'm sad that we never reconciled. But I'm at peace with the choices I made. Mom wants to know if you'll come to the funeral. No. I told her you'd say that. She's furious, but I told her she has no right to expect anything from you. Brianna, you don't have to defend me to Celeste. Yes, I do. Because she spent 40 years enabling Dad's worst behavior, and I'm not doing it anymore. Grandmother, can I tell you something? Of course. When Dad died, the first thing Mom said, literally the first thing after the doctors told us he was gone, was now we need to find out if Lorraine left him anything in her will. Not, I can't believe he's gone. Not, I'm going to miss him. Just, what money can we get from you now that he's dead? I wasn't surprised. What did you tell her? I told her you'd already distributed your estate and there was nothing left to get. She actually said, she gave it all away just to spite Derek. Grandmother, she still thinks this was about revenge. She doesn't understand that it was about you making meaningful choices with your own money. Celeste has never understood that. Let it go. I told Mom I'm done enabling her victim narrative. If she wants to be angry at you for not subsidizing their lives, fine. But I'm not participating. Derek's funeral was held 4 days later. I didn't attend. I stayed home, and I thought about the son I'd raised. The boy who'd been sweet and funny and kind until money turned him into someone else. I thought about the 38 years of silence, the returned letters, the ignored birthdays, the complete erasure of my existence from his life. I thought about his return, not because he missed me, but because someone said I looked frail and he worried about the inheritance. And I thought about the last 2 years, his heart attack, his apology, his donation, his death. After years of silence, my name had come up again. And in the end, what had it all meant? Derek spent 38 years angry at me for having boundaries. Then 2 years realizing his anger was misdirected. Then he died. 38 years of estrangement and 2 years of regret. That was the sum of our adult relationship. It was a waste. A terrible, pointless waste of time that could have been spent building something meaningful. But it was Derek's choice. He'd made it when he was 25 and angry about an inheritance he felt entitled to. He'd maintained it for 38 years, and he'd only changed it when facing death made him realize what he'd lost. By then, it was too late to rebuild what he'd destroyed, too late to reclaim the years he'd stolen, too late to be my son in any meaningful way. All he could do was apologize and donate money and die knowing he'd wasted most of his adult life on resentment. That was his legacy, not the $50,000 donation, not the apology letter. The legacy was, he chose money over relationship and spent 38 years regretting it. A week after the funeral, I received a small package. It was from Derek's attorney, Bradley Simmons. Inside was a letter and a small wooden box. The letter explained, Mrs. Pemberton, Derek left instructions that if he predeceased you, this box should be delivered to you. He didn't explain what's inside, only that you should have it. I opened the box carefully. Inside were photographs, dozens of them, pictures of me that I'd sent over the years, birthdays, holidays, trips I'd taken. Pictures Derek had kept despite returning the letters they'd been included with. Underneath the photographs was a piece of paper, Derek's handwriting. Recent, judging by the shaky quality, written after the heart attack. Mom, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I kept every picture you sent, even when I returned the letters. I told myself I was keeping them to have evidence of your life, in case I ever needed it for the will challenges. But the truth is, I kept them because I missed you. I missed you every birthday when I didn't call, every Christmas when I didn't visit, every Mother's Day when I pretended you didn't exist. I missed you and I was too proud and too stubborn to admit it. These pictures are proof that you tried. For years, you tried, and I rejected every attempt. I'm sorry. I know I already told you that, but I need to say it again. I'm sorry for wasting 38 years. I'm sorry for choosing money over you. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you've had a good life despite losing me. I hope you found happiness and meaning. I hope you don't spend your remaining years thinking about the son who failed you. You deserved better than me. Love, Derek. I sat with the box of photographs and the letter, and I cried. Not the deep, wrenching sobs of fresh grief, just quiet tears for what was wasted and what could never be recovered. Derek had missed me. For 38 years, He'd missed me while actively choosing to maintain the distance between us. That was almost sadder than if he'd genuinely forgotten I existed. He'd known what he was losing, and he'd lost it anyway, because his pride and his resentment mattered more than his relationship with his mother. And now he was gone, and all that remained was a box of photographs he'd kept secretly, and a letter apologizing for choices he'd spent almost 4 decades making. After years of silence, my name had come up again, in Derek's final letter, in his final thoughts, in his final regrets. But it was too late for any of it to matter. I placed the box of photographs in my study, next to the scholarship fund documents. 2 legacies, side by side. Derek's wasted years and my meaningful choices. One represented what happens when you let money corrupt relationships. The other represented what happens when you choose purpose over bitterness. I knew which legacy I preferred. Now, at 85, I still live in my house, technically owned by the scholarship fund, but home to me. I see Brianna and Tyler regularly. I'm part of my great-granddaughter Helen's life, watching her grow from infant to toddler to preschooler. I volunteer with the scholarship fund, meeting recipients, hearing their stories, watching them succeed despite losing parents and working without family financial support. The fund has helped over 200 students now. 200 lives changed because Howard worked hard, because I chose wisely, and because Derek's wasted inheritance went to people who actually needed it. That's the legacy, not the 38 years of silence, not the failed relationship, not the regret and apology. The legacy is what good came from the wreckage. After years of silence, my name came up again. But this time, it's coming up in scholarship award ceremonies, in graduation speeches from students who wouldn't have made it without help, in thank you letters from young people who lost parents and found support. My name comes up when Brianna tells her colleagues about her grandmother, who stood firm against financial exploitation by her own son. When Tyler tells his students about the importance of making ethical choices even when family pressures you otherwise. My name comes up in Helen's baby vocabulary. Jiggy, for great-grandmother, the first family nickname I've had in decades. Derek's name comes up too, in the scholarship fund records, under anonymous donor $50,000. In Brianna and Tyler's memories of a flawed father who finally tried to be better. In cautionary tales about what happens when you choose money over relationships. But my name comes up more, and when it does, it's not connected to silence or absence or regret. It's connected to strength, to wisdom, to the quiet power of maintaining boundaries even when everyone tells you family should mean unconditional access. After years of silence, my name came up again. And this time, it meant something worth remembering. If this story touched you, please subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell for more emotional stories like this. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Somewhere out there, I might be reading.